Are your communication habits sabotaging your relationships and your influence? Let's be real. Communication is the backbone of every relationship, personally and professionally. Yet even the best of us, right? We might unknowingly be sabotaging our connections through subtle communication missteps. It's not always about what you're saying, but it's how you are saying it. So in this video, I'd like to dive into this often overlooked topic and uncover whether your communication habits are helping or hurting you in your relationships and in your influence. I think you'd agree there's a surprising power in communication, right? Did you know that a whopping 93% of communication is nonverbal? So according to research, 55% of communication is body language, 38% is tone of voice, and only 7% is the actual words that you use. Wow, that's a lot to really think through. 7% of the words that we're saying, it's all body language. It's all our tone of voice. That means that even the most carefully chosen words can fall totally flat if your tone or your body language says otherwise, right? How scary is that? So are you crossing your arms, or are you distracted when you're glancing at someone? Or are you sighing and you're not even realizing it, sending messages that you don't intend? I think there's a lot of things we do that are not intended and not intentional. But we're sending off some negative signals here. So think about this. Also think about the people that you interact with. Is their body language sending you a signal where maybe you feel negative towards them, or you feel extremely positive towards someone? Maybe take a minute to be mindful of how others act around you and how you may feel as a result of that. So this can be very eye-opening for yourself as well. And what types of changes do you want to make consciously to make a conscious effort to really be in the positive light when you're conveying a message to someone? So similarly, a study by McKinsey found that effective communication, it increases team productivity by up to 25%. This emphasizes how crucial it is in the workplace. So imagine what poor communication could be costing you in terms of trust, collaboration, or even influence, both professionally and personally. What are the most common communication saboteurs? Let's take a look at 5 sneaky habits that might be eroding your relationships. Saboteur number 1, interrupting mid-sentence. How many of us do this? I know I was guilty of this for the longest time, and I feel like I'm doing a much better job of it now. But you might think that you're contributing to the conversation, but interrupting, it sends a message that you value your input more than the other person's. Wow, that was a lot for me to really take in when I read that. Research published by the Journal of Applied Psychology, they found that teams with members who interrupt frequently report 20% lower satisfaction and trust levels. So take the time to pause and reflect and let the other person talk, and save what you need to say for the end of that. Or maybe decide, maybe you don't need to say it at all, and you might be overspeaking, let's just say that much. So something to consider. Saboteur number 2, overusing you statements. So when you're starting sentences like you always or you never, it can feel accusatory to the other person, and it often can escalate conflicts because you're giving that feeling of blame, right? So try reframing the way that you say something that might reflect how you feel with another person by saying, I feel this, or I've noticed this. just to make it less confrontational. Because think of it, when someone comes at you and says, you did this, you did that, you get on the offense, right? Or on the defense rather, you're not on the offense. And it can be, uncomforting. And then you can't even think about what you want to say because you feel like you're getting all of this blame. So stay on the offense by just expressing what you feel, what you're noticing in someone's behavior, rather than accusing them. Because you might learn a lot about something that they're going through that you know nothing about and may change the way that you think about them. Saboteur number 3 is multitasking during conversations. So scrolling through your phone or glancing at your email while someone is talking to you. We're all guilty. We all are. I think everyone that works in a corporate environment, or even if you work for yourself and you have employees, we're all trying to multitask. I cannot multitask. I will raise both hands on that one. I'm not good at it, and I had to stop it. And it has been life and game changing for me. But this habit screams to someone else is that you're not important to me right now. So how many times are you talking to someone important? Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's, your son or daughter, someone in your family, and they're not looking at you, they're playing with their phone, and you think, are you even freaking hearing anything I'm saying? I know I feel that a lot of times. So don't do that to someone else. A study from Virginia Tech showed that just having a mere presence of a smartphone, it reduces your connection levels during a face-to-face conversation by 30%. So for important conversations, consider leaving that phone somewhere else. Leave it in the car if you're walking into a restaurant, or leave it on your desk, shut it off, and go have that conversation without it in your hand. Saboteur number 4 is let's avoid or stop avoiding difficult conversations. So pretending problems don't exist, it doesn't make them go away, right? It often makes them worse. According to a crucial learning study, they found that 70% of employees, they avoid difficult conversations with their boss, their coworkers, or direct reports, leading to unresolved tensions. So when you think about that, that's really could be impactful, especially 70% of people are not bringing things up. And we've all been there. I mean, sometimes you work with a difficult coworker, or what you really need to say is difficult to get out, and you're trying to find the right words. And sometimes you feel like you just want to avoid it. But sometimes all of that frustration, it just builds up over time, and you end up blowing your top, which ends up being really not professional, right? So try to have these conversations when things get a little rocky or things come up, even if it's small things, just right out of the gate. So how many times do we ruminate about it? We might spend all day thinking about something instead of just picking up the phone or scheduling time and just saying, hey, I need to talk. And just expressing how you're feeling about the situation or getting it off your plate. Because when you don't get these frustrations off the table and get past it, it affects your mind, it affects your focus, right? And you start to get into that victim mentality. So we need to stop that. That's not a place where we want to live. So if something comes up, be brave enough to bring it up. And think of the right words to say and plan, but don't let it sit on your plate too long. Because as it does, you all have been there. I know it. I know I'm not alone, where things keep brewing up, and finally you have a day that you just blow up. So don't go there. It's not a good thing. Saboteur number 5, it's not listening to understand. And this is probably the biggest one, and probably my biggest one. Are you listening to respond or listening to understand? Active listening and leaning in, nodding, paraphrasing, it helps to build empathy and trust. It really does. So people can quickly read you like a book, and the impression that you're making about how you were focusing when they're speaking to you. I And I think you'd agree, it can hurt your credibility. But take time to focus on the conversation and be present. You may learn something that you didn't know about this person or about the situation, or more importantly, you might build a relationship with someone that you can benefit from personally and professionally. I think sometimes, when we're talking or people are talking and we're not feeling like we're being heard, we pass up that person to go to someone else where we feel a bond, we feel a connection. So when you're looking to network with others, when you act like that, they remember that and they don't utilize you as a key person in their life or becoming one of their 5 key important people in their life, right? Because we're a reflection of the 5 most important people in our lives. So when people treat us that way, don't we step away from trusting them? So when we act that way, they feel that in return. So people can quickly read you and make an impression about you on this one all on its own. So there always seems to be a ripple effect on poor communication as well, right? When you make one step in the positive, there's so many things that are going to change for the positive for your life. But think of bad communication habits that they only affect a single relationship. Really think again. Poor communication, it has this ripple effect. It harms not only just one connection, but your overall reputation and your influence. In a study by the Economist Intelligence Unit, 44% of employees said that poor communication caused a delay or a failure in project delivery, and 18% reported a loss of a sale in a sales environment. So this can mean make it or break it when you're trying to close a deal with a sale, or try to close a deal with trying to convince your spouse that you need something or you want to do something, right? So think of it that way. What about your personal relationships? According to Dr. John Gottman, a leading relationship researcher, communication habits predict 90% of relationship success or failure. That's incredible, right? So the way that we communicate, and not just the words we use, but our posture, our position, whether we smile or we're frowning, maybe hand gestures, our tone, everything kind of builds into what we're actually saying. So if you're not paying attention on how you communicate, you're playing with fire in both your personal and your professional life. So we've talked a lot about different areas that you can improve to make a difference in communication. But how can you improve your communication habits starting today? So are you ready to make a change? Here's how you can start. First, adopt the pause and reflect method. Before you respond to any conversation, pause and consider whether your words will add value or clarity. So sometimes some things don't need to be said. Number 2 is use the 3-to-1 rule. For every 1 piece of constructive feedback, offer 3 positive observations. This technique fosters trust and balances the conversation. So this is really helpful when you're giving feedback to someone, maybe someone on your team, especially if you're a leader, and you want to help this person get better, but you don't want to put them in the mindset that you are unsatisfied with their work or unsatisfied with everything that they're doing. Number 3 is schedule tech-free conversations. So once again, get the phone out of the room. Dedicate time for undistracted discussions, whether it's at the dinner table or during one-on-ones with your team. It really helps you to be present and for others to feel like you're focusing on them, which is the most important thing. Number 4 is learn the art of nonviolent communication. So this has been pioneered by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. This approach emphasizes empathy, clear requests, and removing blame from conversations. So no one likes to be blamed. No one wants to be on the defense. They want to be on the offense. So let's give them room to be able to be there. And number 5 is invest in your communication skills. So workshops, books, or even apps like Headway or Blinkist can help you build better habits, or hopefully this video. So invest in your time in learning of ways that you can communicate better, and take those tips, baby steps, right? One little step at a time can lead to such big progress. The bottom line here is whether you're a CEO, a team leader, partner, friend, daughter, son, whatever you are, communication habits define how others perceive you and how successful your relationships become. Are your habits aligned with the impact that you want to have? And if not, it's never too late to change. So take a moment today, not tomorrow, today, to audit your communication style. What habits can you improve? What small change can you create that can lead to a big difference? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear some tips and tricks that you have used in the past, because I'm always on the look for new and better ways to communicate. So let's start a life of creating great conversations, and conversations that matter, that set us up for success and for peak performance. So if you found this content valuable, please consider sharing, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.